Okay, I think what we're going to do is we're going to start out right now with some of the chapter news and announcements and things like that. We'll keep an eye out. I'm sure there's probably other people that'll be coming, but we're going to kind of half close the door for the noise, the bar noise and stuff like that. So nice to see all of you here tonight. I'm John Meachin. I am the acting president up until a few moments from now of the chapter. And we got a couple of things we just want to cover quickly here. And I had notes somewhere. Here they are. Okay. We are having a drawing tonight. We have a couple of items there that are going home with some people. So if you didn't get a ticket, it doesn't matter if you're a member of Trout Unlimited or not. You might find them interesting. If not, you can sell it on the secondary market for little or nothing. How's that? So anyway, we're attempting a new format with our chapter meetings and presentations. In years past, we always met in Wausau, and we always struggled as a board trying to figure out how do we reach out to the different corners of our chapter. And we have 4 counties, and trying to cover 4 counties with just Wausau was problematic, and we were missing a lot of people. So what we've done is we've spread out, and we're dividing up the presentations this year. Today, obviously, is here in Wausau. A month from now, we are going to be at the Sawmill Brewery in Merrill, which is a lovely place for our chapter meeting. And then after that, we're going to be in Marshfield, because we looked at our population of our membership, and we have quite a few up in the Northeast, the Tomahawk, Merrill, that area. We have quite a few in the Marshfield area that never have had presentations from us. So we're going to have presentations in Marshfield. And we also, and hopefully by doing that, we're going to get a little bit more involvement, a little bit more contact with the people that are in our 4 counties. So anyway, we will be meeting always on the second Mondays, September through May. And Pat Esselman has taken over the newsletter, and he will be publicizing where all of those places are and the topics that are happening. Next month's presentation is from Fall Line Outfitters out of Stevens Point. They're going to come up and talk about fishing in the Northwoods, talking about some of the guiding things and opportunities that are there as well. So that's next month. We're also, in February, we won't be having a chapter presentation. We're praying and hoping and dreaming that we're going to be able to do the fly fishing film tour again. We did that a couple of years ago, and we had well over a couple hundred people showed up. It was a great event, raised money for the chapter, which all of our money goes back into the water in the stream in the projects that we have. So we're hoping for COVID, we almost had it this year until COVID reared its ugly head right before we were going to have it. So next year, we're hoping that it flies. The other thing is that some of you, last year we tried something called Hackle and Hops. And the 2 things that a lot of folks around here like to do is tie flies and drink beer. So we've established a really good association with Sawmill Brewery and Zach there. And what we're doing on the 3rd Monday of each month from September through April, beginning at 6 o'clock, we're gonna be tying flies and drinking beer at Sawmill Brewery. Even if you don't tie flies, even if you don't ever want to tie flies, if you want to just come and kibitz and have a good time, if you want to learn how to do it, there'll be people there willing to help you. Now we're doing that in cooperation. We just got done talking with the new president of the Northwoods chapter, which covers, Rhinelander, Tomahawk, Eagle River, covers that whole area. And they are going to be working and publicizing with us. So they're going to be coming down. They'll be having folks coming down from those areas to have a good night at Sawmill. before our presentation, which I know a lot of us have been really looking forward to seeing, we do have just a bit of business, and it has to do with our chapter and our membership. So I need to see if I can do that. I'm gonna unplug you for a minute, Johnson, and we're gonna go here if I can find it. There it is. We're going to talk about our board of directors and our officers that technically. Ooh, hello, that didn't work. It's on. Okay, good. We have to officially elect board members and officers, and we're going to do that tonight. But before we do that, we have something else that we have to get in front of you, and that is Kirk. If you would come up here, please. Get off your chair and come up here. Kirk Stark was our chapter president up until recently, and Kirk has done a lot of work for the chapter under his reign. I guess the reign of terror at times. Yeah, reign of terror at times. We were able to do some pretty amazing things. We increased our membership by quite a bit, and pulled off the fly fishing film tour and other things. So what we would like to do, in fact, what we are going to do, is to present you with a fly box, and we actually have flies in there for you, and it's also for you in honor of your work as our chapter president. So thank you, Kirk, for that.
Thanks to all you guys that come and do things, and I certainly enjoyed it. Not all the time, but I enjoyed it. So I guess I did it for 6 years, which is 4 years too long. So.
Oh, actually, that's 2 terms. That's good.
Yeah.
No, it actually isn't 2 terms. That's right. So,
anyway,
thank you, Kirk.
But it's a great organization. Does a lot of good. We're focused on cold water and cold water preservation, and it's a big issue for us, and we need to keep the charge going. So, any effort you can put in it, please do it.
Okay. Now keep working and pass those out for me. Thank you. Okay. We had a board meeting earlier in August, and we came up with a slate of officers and directors that have been coerced and willing to serve. And as you notice, I'm passing out the printed copy for you. I had the great fortune of being the vice president when Kirk stepped down. So I get the privilege of being the president, and I will do that for 2 years.
Tell them how you made me take that role.
Yeah, I know. That's true. So the folks that have volunteered and are willing to do this are myself, Vice President Eric Pease is right over there. Linda Lehman, who could not be here because she's on another Trout Unlimited virtual meeting tonight. For secretary, and Patrick Esselman. Patrick over there is our treasurer. These are 2-year terms. As we elect tonight, they will be on for 1 or 2 years. We haven't decided exactly how to work that, but we're trying to make sure that we keep rotating, so it's not a life sentence when you become a board of director either. We have the other ones that have also volunteered to do this are Paul Dado, who called and said he was exposed to COVID this past week, and so he thought the better part of staying home. Al Halber is another one. And let's see. Frank Kruska. Oh, that didn't work. That's interesting. Okay, you have it on your sheet. Frank Kruska is the other one, and Robert Pankrast. Perry Nikolai is over here, Perry, and Robert Pills. Bob. Bob Pills. Yeah. We also have the one thing that we can do as a board is to appoint others, and because of that, we have 3 spots that could be filled. We already have 2 people that have expressed interest in serving on the board, and so past election, the board can select them and have them in. So those of you that are members of the board of this, a lot of you are, it's like you're sentencing yourselves here. All in favor of those? Oh, are there any other nominations for the board? I have to do that, I guess. Any other nominations for the board? You can do whatever you want to do.
I'll second.
There's a lot of inbreeding in this board, I noticed. Did you notice that? I don't know what was said. I didn't hear.
It was all in jest.
All in jest. Thank you.
Just to make you sweat.
One more for Robert's rules. Is there anyone else, any other nominations for the board at this time? Anyone want to cast a unanimous ballot for the board as presented? Thank you, Henry. Second? Hi. Second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. The only other thing that, thank you for your willingness to serve as well. The only other thing that we have is on the 24th, coming up. Coming up on the 24th, the Saturday, we are in Wausau. Wausau is hosting the state the state council meeting for Trout Unlimited. So the entire state will be here in Wausau, and we will. We're set up for the music hall. What was the first? Eric? What's the music hall's name again? Whitewater Music Hall, right downtown, and that will be all day on Saturday. If any of you would want to be part of that, you are welcome to attend. I know I most likely will be there the whole day, and misery loves company. So if anybody wants to join me, we'd be happy to have that. Okay? It is. I don't trust my memory anymore. That's the problem.
Neither do I.
It's the 24th of September. And if none of you have ever been to them, they're actually fairly interesting. I mean, they cover the whole gamut of what's going on statewide with Trout Unlimited and the work that we're doing. So please, if you're interested, you can contact me or any of us, and we can help you out with that. Okay? Good. All right, I'm going to plug you back in here. Now, as many of you know, come on, you can do it. It'll come, I bet. Huh? Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Well, I'll let you touch it. I'm not going to touch it. We've become aware of and probably a little late to the game even about the possibility of sulfide mining in our chapter area. Since we cover both Marathon and Taylor counties, we thought it would be good to know, to get some background, get some information, so that we can make a qualified decision on that. We also have a gentleman here with us today who is also has a petition that after the presentation, if you're interested in signing, you want to say a couple words about that?
This is Dan Barnes, live locally here in Marathon County, been involved in the opposition to the mine for quite a long time. And so you all remember there was a Prove It First Act in Wisconsin back in around 1997, overturned by the Scott Walker administration and associated legislature. Not only did that overturn the Prove It First Act, it also took away local power to do anything about it. The only thing that we can do about it is to raise enough of a local fuss about it. We're trying to get the county board to oppose the line. That's going to be a real tough road to hold, but we're trying it. But if we can get enough vocal and loud and evidence of opposition to it through the petitions, we have a chance of convincing the investors in that line to walk away from it. That's really the only chance we have of stopping this. So I'll be talking a little bit more about it, but if you're interested in opposing the mine, see me, we'll get your name on the petition, and we'll get that to the right people.
Okay, and you have to be a resident of Marathon County to sign the petition. It's my pleasure. You know, we wanted to find out more about the mine, so we got in touch with the River Alliance, and Johnson got a hold of us and said, "I'd love to come." You know. Yep. I do remember that. Yeah. Thank you, Kirk. So anyway, Johnson, the floor is yours, and have at us.
Just clip on anywhere up close. I'll take a peek here. I see this is on, so I just can clip it on and we're good. All right. Hey, everybody, give me 1 second here. Let me get this. All right, cool. All right. So this is me. My name's Johnson. You can call me JB if you like. A lot of people, I have a last name for a first name, so Johnson or JB. I joined River Alliance of Wisconsin just over a year ago, and I live up in Ironwood, Michigan. I'm right on the Montreal, right on the border with Hurley. So as soon as housing opens up in Wisconsin, I'll finally get into Wisconsin, but for now, Ironwood works just fine. But one of the things that quickly emerged when I joined River Alliance is the work that River Alliance has done on mining issues over many years. We're coming up on our 30th anniversary next year, and mining has come back up to the surface as a hot topic once again, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So this is the big picture, and as I said, I've only been with River Alliance about a year. I didn't work in the state, so I have some people here with a lot more history than I do on the mining. So feel free if you need to point anything out. This is the big picture map, and so this is where we are right now. And up here in the up in the far upper right, you'll see the deposit. Over where we are in Marathon, you'll see the Reef deposit. Over to Taylor County, you'll see the Bend deposit. But what I wanted to ask is are people in here in general familiar with the overall history of attempts at mining in the last, say, decade in Wisconsin, or is this known or unknown to you, I guess would be a way to put it?
It's pieces.
Okay.
I would assume that we don't know much.
Okay. Well, where we are, so the Back 40 project, it just went through a huge transition to a new company purchasing it. So it's years away, if it even happens. The Reef deposit and the Bend deposit, they have both had exploration drilling in the past. The Reef deposit, we'll talk about that more. It's the only situation right now related to mining in Wisconsin that is actually what I would call incredibly important, meaning exploration drilling is being pursued, so there's a real interest there. The other areas, so the Bend deposit, it's been explored, but there's no current activity over there. And then as colleague in the mining work over here, Eric was mentioning, Wisconsin has had an amazing result in the citizens stepping up to put some stoppage on the mining situation. And so the Crandon deposit, the Lynn deposit up here, those were two efforts to stop and prevent mining from happening. And people have come forward and jumped into that. And the reason I mention that is, so historically, we're one of the places where people didn't just jump in and say, let's open these mines, right? The people on the ground, the Wisconsinites, have really come forward. And that's what we're going to have to rely on, as you'll find out here in a little bit going forward. This is all going to come down to citizen involvement because they have weakened the law so tremendously. They've gone at local control so tremendously. Something like 56 different pieces of legislation to limit local control over the last 15 years. The point is, it's up to us to be aware and share information, and so that's what I'm starting today. This is a many years long process, but you got to be ready, from moment one. And what we're trying to do is simply get the basic, a strong base of that pyramid with information and knowledge going forward, so that people are at least aware of what they're hearing out in the world, whether it's true or false, because there is a lot of bad rhetoric surrounding mining, as you may have learned. Try it again. There we go. And this is just a little bit more of a detail. What I wanted to point out, so Back 40 project, the Reef project, that diamond is Marathon County, the Bend project is Taylor County. And then those other two smaller red diamonds, again, those are two actually very rich deposits that were stopped through involvement of the tribes and Wisconsinites on the ground. That's really important to know that, because in this day and age, anytime you can have an environmental victory is pretty rare and special. And again, I just am emphasizing that Wisconsin has a very strong history of engagement on mining and working to stop it. A little bit up further, so some of the news to share. So you probably heard of the Eagle Mine, and then over those two at the very top left, those two diamonds, they actually kind of bookend Porcupine Mountains, and sadly, those have come into they're working very hard to open a mine that literally will tunnel under, I believe it's the Presque Isle River that comes out of the Porcupine Mountain State Park into Lake Superior. There is actually a strong proposal that they're working on now, and I'm only mentioning that because, again, there is a real momentum driving, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Mining is getting ready to become very popular again. And so what you have been hearing in Wisconsin, we expect that to just ramp up and continue into the near-term future. The little map that I just showed you, that big blob, the reason that there's one very strong, clear thing that we stand opposed to on mining in that region, in our region. It's sulfide mining, okay? And that's important to understand. You're gonna hear probably every term except sulfide mining mentioned when people talk about it. And specifically, forgive me for pronunciation, I believe it's volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits is, I think, the technical name for it, which that region has. And again, sulfide mining as a whole is very problematic, and I'll talk about it here in a minute on the law. We once had here in Wisconsin one of the best, and it was held up around the world, I believe, but especially within the US, as an ideal mining law. And basically what it did, the old law said, if you're going to be doing sulfide mining in Wisconsin, you're going to have to show us an example of a sulfide mine that did not contaminate or pollute its environment. They couldn't find one, okay? Because sulfide mining is just historically problematic. And this is a 2-minute video I'm going to hopefully run just to give you an overview. And again, tonight, this is a huge topic. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but tonight is hopefully at least a big, broad overview, because this is a multi-year process we're talking about engaging on a mine. It's not a one and done. So this is just a kind of a starter. And we'll see if this plays. And it doesn't look like it's loaded, so it may not. Oh, so my apologies. It's supposed to be loaded. For some reason, it's not. This is on the River Alliance website. It's 2 minutes. But if you go to our website, which is wisconsinrivers.org, you can pull up this video. You can also pull up a sign-up sheet. We do mining updates, so you can sign up for the mining updates. We also have an overview page on mining and also some of these locations that I've mentioned. And I'll share that address later. What the video was gonna show you is the problem with sulfide mining is acid mine drainage, and the basic issue is the mining done through sulfide mining leads to pollution of groundwater, and through acid mine drainage, in essence, it's exorbitantly expensive to deal with that issue. So it comes down to could a mine be built safely that prevents acid mine drainage? We were actually talking about this because the company that's working on exploration gave this great story about how you can solve acid mine drainage, et cetera, et cetera. Technically, that may be possible if you have endless money, but as we know, these are business ventures, so you have to balance out the design and the cost of the mine with what you're actually going to pull out of that mine to make a profit. And that's what we're talking about right now, though, is this would be sulfide mining if the reef deposit ever went online. That is the big #1 stumbling block for River Alliance and many other people, is we just have not seen any examples that we can support sulfide mining safely and feel that is a good thing for the environment.
I'm presuming that it makes sulfuric acid as part of the drainage. And what actually is the harmful chemical that we fill on sulfide mine?
Yeah, and Eric, I don't know if you want to give like 1 minute on that.
Sulfide mining is sulfide rock. From the Menominee River all the way across the top of northern Wisconsin to Minnesota, it's sulfide rock pretty much. That's the volcanic sulfur deposit he's talking about. The problem with sulfide mining is they crush the rock with sulfur. Sulfur combined with water and oxygen creates sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is acid mine drainage, which causes heavy metals to leach into your water. So you're talking mercury, lead, arsenic, and a host of other heavy metals that now become released by the sulfuric acid, and now it becomes mobile in your water. That is the #1 contaminant. So fish, animals, anybody who drinks heavy metal contamination. We already know when we fish, we have to look at how many we can eat, what river we're fishing from, so we don't eat too much mercury. This would only increase those issues.
How about their discovery, they use PFAS in their discovery when they bore, right?
So that is a whole separate issue that, yes. So what Kirk's referencing is, a lot of you have probably heard of fracking. Well, when they do horizontal drilling for fracking, all kinds of PFAS are used in that process, but they also now know it's not talked about as often, but studies are finally coming out. The one that I have been relying on, I don't know about you, Eric, but there's a really good study out of Norway that has been looking at mining and PFAS. The problem in the United States is we know PFAS are used in the drilling processes, but there's a specific loophole. Some people call it the Cheney loophole. Some people call it the Halliburton loophole. They consider it proprietary information. So DNR, Wisconsin DNR, has this long list of chemicals that are approved. Some of the people that Eric and others work with have been talking to DNR because of it's actually a law that allows companies using drilling fluids considered proprietary information. We don't actually know which drilling fluids, even if they've been approved by the DNR, we do not know which of them have or do not have PFOs or PFAS in it. So it is.
They had to submit that in their petition to the state to get the drilling rights. I thought that they had to submit what they're using.
They do, but they don't have to mention, because of the legal loophole, the Cheney loophole, it's also known as the Halliburton loophole. There is a list of things that they do not have to admit are in those chemicals. So it's a relevant topic, because even at the exploration stage, you're talking about drilling and using fluids. So that is being explored by some other people. We're not working on that per se, but it is absolutely something that needs to be looked at in light of what is happening right now with PFAS just kind of exploding, sadly.
Can I say
Oh.
something? We, the DNR has a committee called the PFAS Advisory Committee, and some of the people around the table here have attended the meetings, and they have now committed to sample testing some of the drilling fluids that they've already approved. And they've admitted they have no idea whether there's PFAS in them or not. They have taken the word of the companies that produce the drilling fluids that there is no PFAS, but they have never tested it. So they're going to be doing some sample testing. We don't know when that's going to begin.
Okay.
There's over 200 approved drilling fluids in Wisconsin. When the DNR was asked whether any of them were physically tested for PFAS, the answer was no. So they use the MSDS, which is a safety data sheets, left kinds of those at work, where it'll say, here, you can't drink it, if you drink it, or don't get it in your eyes, that kind of sheet. So by looking at those safety data sheets, they tried to determine whether there was or was not PFAS. So their answer was, to the best of their knowledge, there are no PFAS in any of our approved drilling fluids. As Dan said, we pushed them on. I mean, why are you not physically testing? How far they go with that? We're not saying we know there are PFAS in there. We know there is PFAS issues with drilling out west when they do fracking. So that was why the question was asked. So that's kind of up in the air, and until they test, it's still up in the air.
Yeah, and I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm not sure, I know they're going into parts per trillion for this testing. And back a while back, it was parts per billion was really very good. test.
Right.
And so does the DNR, even if they do attempt to test these, will they be able to test parts per trillion?
That I can't answer, because I haven't been engaged on that work. I just know that there is absolutely, PFAS are involved in mining, drilling. We know that from other countries. We don't yet know what that means here in Wisconsin.
So I'm just saying, if you get the test back from the DNR and say, we don't detect this, we have to know what the level of detection is.
Yeah, and I just don't have any info on that. But yeah, it is minuscule. The EPA actually just lowered it to, I believe, 4 parts per trillion. State of Wisconsin was looking at something like 60. So we have a lot of work there on that issue as well. So that's funny. I don't know what's going on. There's delay today. There we go. So the biggest problem that we have, as I mentioned, Wisconsin did have previously what was considered one of the best mining laws in the nation. It was held up by attorneys and state governments and all sorts of other entities as being one of the best, if not the best. And they call it the prove it first law because, in essence, again, as we talked about briefly, acid mine drainage is the central big problem. The law, again, I'm not going to get into the 800 pages of it, but the gist of it was, if you guys can show us a mine example similar to the mine design you want to open in Wisconsin and show us that that mine design did not lead to acid mine drainage problems, will help you open your mine. They could not find one, okay? It just hasn't happened. So instead, what do? If you have a good, good law that's stopping something you want to do, you change the law. So that's what happened. In 2017, and this would have been during Walker administration, they came in and completely rewrote the law. And I shared this with John, and I'm certainly not gonna read it, but we do have this available on the website that I'll point you to. What this is Dave Bluen, who does mining work for Sierra Club and other organizations in Wisconsin, did a side-by-side comparison of the old law and the new law. And again, I'm not going to read it, but it is very quickly, very clear, and very obvious. The new law, which had many industry people involved in the writing of it, and at least one of them I know is now working on the Green Light Metals team. Basically, it just took away almost all of the protections for mining. It also changed timelines. It changed local oversight. It changed public involvement processes. And so the gist of it is this is where we are. So we have this new mining law that is open enough that is no longer, you can no longer assume that a mine won't happen in Wisconsin because of potential of acid mine drainage. That's the big. There are a lot of smaller pieces. So this is why I said this is going to come down to, it always does, but even more so, the law was changed, dozens, and these are all things I'm happy to provide references, this isn't just my opinion, dozens of changes to the law at the local level has left it so that basically if a company wants to come in and mine in Wisconsin, 5 years ago probably wouldn't have happened. Today, I don't know what percentage or how to put it, but way easier. We'll just put it that way, to the point that they used to call the old law and essentially a moratorium on mining, even though that wasn't its purpose. We don't have that anymore. Mining can happen in Wisconsin. I'll just put it that way. What I wanted to, this is kind of the meat of what I wanted to talk about today. So we have a specific situation, right, with the reef deposit in Marathon County. We know exploration is being looked at. What I wanted to talk about are kind of the big pictures here on the timeline, and then also who's involved in this process. So there's really 4 large buckets related to mining processes. The first and simplest stage is exploration drilling. Prospecting and exploration drilling are essentially the same thing. Prospecting is the term that the Forest Service uses for its permitting. And so if you are wanting to do exploration drilling in land that the Forest Service is involved in, you would actually be applying for prospecting. But exploration and prospecting are very similar. It's essentially just going into a bunch of locations and drilling boreholes to get samples. So is it, and again, with the issue of what drilling fluids are used, et cetera, yes, there are issues with that. Then you step up to bulk sampling. Bulk sampling was changed quite a bit under the new law. They are now allowed to pull up to 20 million pounds of samples. And again, on exploration and bulk sampling, they've changed it to where there is no public process that can stop either of those. There are steps that they have to go through with federal government, with local government, with the county, but exploration and bulk sampling at this point, if the county wants, the main entity involved in that wants this to happen, it can happen. So on the exploration and the bulk sampling, even more so, it is absolutely up to education and citizen engagement with local elected officials to talk about it, because again, there are not clear paths to stop those processes, even if there's public opposition. Okay, step that up to the issuing of a mining permit. This is the actual, we're gonna get a mine, we've done exploration, we've done bulk sampling, we liked what we saw, we want to open a mine. The biggest change on the mining permit, the timing is still somewhat similar. And so keep in mind, it's about 2.5 years just for the mining permit. This is completely separate from exploration, from bulk sampling, from all the other work. The mining permit process under the new law, it's about 2.5 years. They did take a couple intermediate public input steps out. So now there is still public input as part of the issuing of the mining permit, but they pulled that back quite a bit. So if you're going all the way up to the mining permit, say they explore at Reef, they like it and they bulk sample. If they decide to pursue the mine, it's about 2.5 years just for that mining permit component. There will be citizen input on that. And at the very end of the process, there is a legal process that can be called into action. If there's strong opposition and people are just not happy, there is a public input process on the mining permit. It's much weakened compared to where it was 5 years ago, but there is going to be a chance there for the public to weigh in on it.
What kind of impact would something like that have if there's no backing, nothing behind it?
It's going to be a lot harder.
Sounds like a ghost.
It's going to be a lot harder. And I think a lot of it's going to come down probably to the economics on how, the economics of that mine and what the county is going to get out of it. Because again, they've changed a lot of the technical steps along the way. So it's still there and it's still important, but yeah, they weakened it, and that's the best term I can use on several other pieces as well. They've weakened it. Again, they haven't removed the public process entirely.
Set up and say, hey, I don't want that to happen. They go up.
Yeah, I mean, a good example.
Nice to hear from you. Thank you.
It can happen. I'm neutral here. I'm just here for info tonight, but that can happen. I'll just say that.
Having written, when I worked in manufacturing, having written permits for use of materials that involve finishing operations, one thing I've learned about public comments, most public comments don't come in with facts, they come in with feelings. So as long as you meet the requirements of the permitting process, the public comments are always useful. The only thing that changes that, if there's enough public comments that the investors look at it and say, I really don't want to deal with this for a long time. So it's really
Yes,
comes
sir.
down
Oh.
to the sad fact that most people use their emotions with public comment instead of using scientific information.
Yes, sir.
Do you know at this point whether, if they want to permit a mine, whether it would be a shaft mine or an open pit mine, or is that yes, not?
We're still far away. So I'll use the back 40 as an example. So the back 40 mine was taken over by new owners and they had to start all of their permitting process. The first step in the actual, if you're actually getting to that mine development, is a feasibility study. What we're seeing at the back 40 project in Marinette is they saw what happened on previous permitting reviews. They're basically now trying to design a mine that avoids the need for some of these previous issues they had. So it's all speculative, but until you actually see that feasibility study, which is years away, in the case of Reef, that's still, it's still a long way away. You would have to look at that feasibility study because even at back 40, which was originally going to be a simple open pit mine, now they're talking about underground mining. I expect the same thing would happen with Reef, which is they would start looking at where the opposition is and what the issues are, and they often try to match the mine design to address what the public is talking about, but it's just pure speculation at this point.
My impression is that underground mining leads to less pollution because they mine the seams of ore and then they take that metal rich ore and take it to a smelter to get the gold out of it versus where there isn't a whole lot of gold, and they just grab the ore and then they, make a big axe and then spray chemicals on it and leach the gold out of the ore. So, I mean, there's two kinds of mining,
Right.
and one is a lot more polluting than the other kind. So, to me, if they said we're going to do underground mining, we're going to dig a hole, and we're going to mine the seams of ore specifically, to me, that would be less worrisome than an open pit mine, grab all this ore, put it on a pad, and spray chemicals on it to leach the gold out of the ore. And then you got, then you got all this ore standing in the open, rain
Right.
falls on it forever, and you've got a huge environmental problem.
Yeah, and this specific issue that he's talking about, which is go back to back 40, what they've started talking about, like to address that. Now they're claiming, so have any of you heard of the Eagle Mine up in the UP? So the Eagle Mine is in full operation, and it's often pointed to as a model mine. That is a situation where they're taking that ore to an enclosed facility for the processing. Then you have, as a counter to that, the Flambeau mine, which I won't get into the details on it, but the Flambeau was just a big pit. And they did no processing in Wisconsin. So when you hear them talking about how awesome the Flambeau mine is, just remember, all that was in essence is a giant hole that they dug. All of that material was shipped to Canada. So the majority of the issues ended up on the Canada side. But I will say, even in that scenario, we have Stream C, which is a piece of the Flambeau mine, which still has elevated levels for copper. So it was not a perfect mine. And my point for mentioning that is, yes, there's two wildly different designs. We have no idea where they might go. And the people, when they gave the presentation, it felt like they were basically just trying to spit out a design that would match what people were asking them about. Versus until we see, actual feasibility and stuff on paper, we just don't know. But you are absolutely correct. There's open pit mining and there's shaft mining. Both are possible. The offhand, what they've said just very loosely is it'll just be a big open pit mine in reef, but we don't know that, and making no claims to what that would look like. At the bottom, you'll see, so this is just an overview of who is involved in the process, authorities and regulatory agencies. Again, they weakened a lot of the processes when they went from the old mining law to the 2017 mining law, but there are still levels that have to be engaged. Tribal governments are a tremendous asset in Wisconsin. They have been very active and involved in all of these mining issues, especially the Crandon fight, which was a victory for them. So that is something that I want to point out, that if you haven't thought about it, we have all of these tribal entities in Wisconsin who actually have government-to-government relationship with the state of Wisconsin. We also have state government through Wisconsin DNR. I do want to mention DNR, you can look it up in the news. Sadly, over the last couple decades, it's really had its budget and its number of employees stripped way back. So they're at kind of a uniquely low spot for dealing with something as massive as trying to permit a mine. They just hired a full-time mining person. First, they were using a consultant, a former DNR. Point is, DNR is engaged, but they have really been hacked at and hammered over the past couple decades. So their mining component, if you will, the number of people they have who can actually work on that is almost nil. It's about 1.5, 1.5 people. Federal government is involved. So I mentioned Taylor specifically because one of the things that I have on a slide here in a minute, Forest Service, the Bend deposit is completely on National Forest. Therefore, Forest Service has super high oversight on how that all works out. as part of, you may have heard, and again, I have this on in a second, forgive the wonkiness, but it's important. I don't know how many of you have heard the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed. Believe it or not, there are several sections in there specifically focused on mining. One of the things that the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, does, it asks the Forest Service to go and examine all outstanding mining permits and mining requests and mining studies. And the federal government has asked Forest Service to expedite all of their mining, whatever you want to call it, paperwork. Okay, so again, we'll talk about the bigger picture. On the local government side, again, we've already mentioned it. It has really been hacked back over about 15 years of of legislative action in Wisconsin. And I don't have a list, but it's dozens and dozens of pieces of pinches at local government. And I want to mention, so Eric is with an organization called Oneida County Clean Waters Action. And they've been a working example of this local control when the new mining law came in. And I don't know if I know it's complicated. I don't know if there's a simple thing other than to say, would you agree that the new mining law, it basically upended all the county and local ordinances to where a lot of counties didn't even have the time or the ability to respond. So in essence, I think it stripped away quite a bit of opportunity for county government and local government to even have a say in that.
Well, I was down here when Marathon County wrote their ordinance. The counties were being bullied, if you want to call it. They were being rushed because they were saying, hey, this ordinance, this law is expiring. You need to do something right now. A lot of the counties were pressured by I believe it was the Counties Association was helping push them towards getting ordinances in place. So, Marathon County has maybe one of the better ordinances, but it's lacking a lot. I mean, I think a lot of counties were in fear if they went too far to protect themselves, the state was going to come in and slap them and say that we didn't change this law to make it easier to mine, to have the counties now override what we did. So that's kind of in a general picture what happened. A lot of the counties knuckled under. They did the best they could to protect themselves. There are ways where you think are possible as far as zoning and just different. You have to think of all these different angles to try and protect yourself from this type of mining. It's only been done in one place in Wisconsin the last 30 years. That was up in the Flambeau. It was in Rusk County. It was the second poorest county in the state. So you can almost understand why a county like that might go for a venture like that. But in most counties, in Marathon County, there's no way, with everything that we have here in Marathon County in central Wisconsin, that we would want to invite this type of mining with the risk to our water for the minimal amount of profits, the minimal jobs that will come with it, and understand that these mines all go away. So nothing, they don't last forever. The Flambeau line lasted 4 years. Those guys had jobs for 4 years. It wasn't a lot of people, and those jobs are gone. That's what you're trading. You're trading your risking your water in minimal and short money, short time. So Johnson said, right now the best thing is you sign Dan's resolution in the county and get enough of the public to say, no, we don't want it, and the investors will not invest because these guys are exploration companies. They don't have a lot of money. They're trying to raise money. They're trying to show the big mining companies, hey, this you can make money here, and then they're going to sell out to the big mining companies. But until they have the money to do the job, and when you scare the investors away because they won't touch it if there's no social license. Light Metals even mentioned this in their presentation. They want to have social license. In other words, they want the local people to say, yes, we want your mine, we want what your mine will provide to us. So that is the best attempt right now. So sign the resolution and any kind of input you could make opposing the mine. What was the question?
No, that's a good setup. So what I'll mention, so Eric mentioned Marathon County is one of the few counties that did, and River Alliance helped. They put together the best new county mining ordinance they could with what the law allowed them.
But they can't say no.
Right, and this is where I was going. Sadly, though, even though Marathon has the best county ordinance, it still can't stop some of these processes. It can't stop exploration, it can't stop bulk sampling, and it can't actually stop mining, although there's public involvement. So what Eric ended on, social license. This is what, when I keep saying it's going to be up to Wisconsin, it's going to be up to the people. That is absolutely a real thing. The Back 40 project is a prime example of that. If you go and talk to Aquila, which failed to get Back 40 off the ground, and ask them what happened, they're going to say it was the people speaking up tied to the social license. Because again, what they're looking for is the ability to bring in money and people to a situation where they're wanted. If there is enough outcry on the ground, we have shown that that can at least slow and potentially stop mining projects. So again, you'll hear that term, social license, and that's what they're talking about. And again, Greenlight Metals brought it up in their initial presentation to the county. They want the county and the citizens on their side for this, for various reasons, but number one, to attract money.
Just so you know, I mean, if we're not exaggerating this type of mining and the impact it has. Minnesota right now, in their boundary waters area, now Minnesota is pretty much, I wouldn't call it a mining happy state, but they've been doing mining there for many, many years. They have a lot of mining, mostly iron mining in Minnesota. They're contesting this type of mining anywhere in wet-rich areas, so around the boundary waters. They're fighting back. So it's not just Wisconsin tree huggers. Minnesota and those people up there, they understand what this type of mining brings and the risks it brings. So it's widespread from UP all the way across to Minnesota.
Yeah, they're Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota right now. Oddly, there's a lot of it's a hotbed for mining. So we are all going to work on this together. So I want to switch over. Here we are, Marathon County. In terms of, first of all, up here where you're really good trout streams. So these are DNR trout maps. The mining location is, if I can get my, it's right up there by the best trout streams. That's what I can tell you. Where we are on this is they're looking at doing exploration in that area. And I shared with a couple of you, there is a group of people here in Marathon County. Nancy Stencil is overseeing this, and I've shared her name. They have yard signs, they have buttons. She's working with OCCWA, Eric's organization, and she's talked to all the neighbors in the area of the exploration. Now, I want to be very honest. The likelihood of stopping exploration is very slim, and Dan was very honest about that. The petition and getting groundswell is the only chance because, again, they've taken any legal means to stop this process. So most likely it's going to happen. Our concerns are, as apart from the fact that it has the trout streams, it's not too far from the Eau Claire, and my understanding is groundwater is anywhere from 0 to 20 feet in that area. And I want to be very clear, all of this is about water in Wisconsin. I'm sure all of you know better than or as well as anybody, Wisconsin it's a wet, water-rich environment. That's what makes it so special. And that is the number one reason that all of the work at River Alliance focused on mining. It does not have anything to do with, do we like mining or are we opposed to mining? It is what can we do to assure that our water is not going to be impacted. That's what all of this leads to for us, is can we guarantee that the water is not going to be detrimentally impacted? So that's where we are. In Marathon County, the reef deposit, again, up in that area, they are working with the county right now to get their exploration permits. That's done in conjunction with DNR. What they have said at their last meeting, they expect to do exploration drilling this winter. So winter, if you want to use that. They're expecting to have the permitting process done before or in late fall. So this is what we're following. Why we're following the exploration, even if we might not be able to stop it, is, again, there are issues and concerns over what they use in the drilling fluids for the boring. There are issues with the fact that the groundwater is basically at the surface. All kinds of wetlands over there, which is a separate issue. I hadn't even gotten into it too much yet on the wetlands issue. But the bottom line is our concern over this has to do with shallow water, quality water, as you can see, and making sure that the impacts don't hurt those things. Because this is, again, this is just the first stage. Exploration is the very first step.
They have to apply for air pollution.
Nope.
Not
Nope.
whatsoever, because for many years, the state has had a policy with the DNR of looking at air pollution, not just from, like, let's take a manufacturing plant. If they have a parking lot for their employees that's basically gravel, they have to estimate the fugitive dust from that. I'm surprised they have to, there's nothing here that has to be done with that in their permits.
Yeah.
Because I've seen actually permits disallowed because they didn't, they didn't fit in with the fugitive dust.
Yeah, it's actually a point of contention. The Eagle mine that I mentioned, which is fully operating in the UP, they were not even required to have air permits. It wasn't done properly, but my point is that is absolutely an area that needs to be focused on, and sadly, it's often overlooked.
Not for the drilling process.
Right. Yeah. On the
If there is a line, those are air permits.
The truck traffic going in and out
Right.
causes that.
Right, but they're not hauling, they're not gonna be hauling ore or dust or crushed rock or anything in the drilling process, right? They're just drilling, they don't even remove any dirt per se, they drill right through the first
Well, they
stage.
do, it's just that no one keeps track of it.
Right. So, I mean, I have not heard of air
The
testing.
fugitive dust thing is a completely different.
No, that's a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal, and it's monitored when there's an
Yeah.
open pit mine, or even like he says, when the transportation of the ore from the Eagle mine, I think it's maybe 60 miles away.
I can't remember how many miles.
They take it to a place where they dump it in a lake, and, they do the processing, and then from that point in Michigan, they do the percolating, where they remove the iron in the ores, and they ship that to Canada for smelting. So, I mean, there's pollution problems, not just at the Eagle mine itself, but where they process at the Humboldt location. And then they store their tailings underwater, so they have this great big lake that they throw their tailings in, because they say, well, it's always underwater, so no oxygen gets to it, no sulfuric acid. But that is a method we don't do in Wisconsin, so we don't do that tailings underwater method. I mean, so there's just many risks with all of this.
Just one question on location.
Yes.
From what I saw before, it is on the Eau Claire, basically by the dells of the Eau Claire.
Pretty close.
And then I also thought it moved between that and the Plover River.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have it plotted on here, but what you described sounds right.
Pretty much just straight out on N,
Yeah.
and then you get to Cornapple Road, pretty much starting from N, and in the ballpark figure, so you're figuring north from Cornapple Road east, and then north, so that's the kind of section area where it's at.
And where we are, so the permitting process, where we are on this, Greenlight Metals had a presentation that they shared with the county, and this was, I don't know, a month ago, 4 weeks, about a month ago. Again, Greenlight said that they plan to do their exploration in the winter, but we still have no paperwork because they have to work with DNR. So the county and DNR, even on the exploration, even though it can't be stopped, they work in conjunction on the permitting. We haven't seen any paperwork out of that yet. So even though they have said they expect to be doing exploration in the winter, we don't know yet. Point being, again, it's vigilance, and we have several people following these processes, meeting with the county. So all we know at this point is Greenlight hopes to be doing exploration drilling in the reef deposit this winter, but we are still following that. So that's the most important thing. What I wanted to, go ahead.
Is that part of the public comment process that's been removed?
I'm sorry.
Well, you mentioned before that
Oh,
some of the public comment stuff has been removed or eliminated. I'm just wondering if that's part of the process.
I'd have to, so we have this list. I'd have to go back and look and see how that impacted on the exploration side, because I don't actually know. But what we do know is that there is no formal public engagement on the exploration process.
Yeah.
Meaning, so if wanted to, the county could just do all this. They have people have been coming and talking, but I don't know technically the answer to that. The overall, so I shared Nancy Stencil and her phone number. If you have, so somebody had asked about yard signs, and there are also buttons. But why I wanted to mention Nancy, so Nancy has really headed up working on this at the local level, meeting with the county. She's working with people in Eric's organization in Oneida County. We have somebody from Langlade County working on this. But the point being is, our best work right now is going to be facts and information, because again, there is no Xbox to just stop this process. The best thing we can hope for is that all of you have the facts and the knowledge in your minds to be able to speak appropriately as these things come up. Because one second, Greenlight gave a presentation to the county that was problematic. And so this is where our work started, was we feel the need to just share the information and the facts about these processes and what happens on the ground going forward. 1 second. Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment on that, because Dan, I signed your petition, okay? But you've got a very conservative county board in Marathon County. And I think they're gonna see that, and they're gonna, to your point, Eric, you're gonna say, these are a bunch of tree huggers, and who cares?
Yeah.
The argument I think you should consider bringing to the board is the money. I went to University of Montana for several years, and just up the Clark Fork River, there's a Superfund site where tailing ponds that were never supposed to flooded, and all this toxic waste got trapped in the dam.
Missoula, Montana.
Right outside of Missoula, Montana. And that costs hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to clean up. And when you go to Greenlight or Back 40 or pick your mining company with the bill, they disappear like dust in the wind, because they declare bankruptcy, and the same board of directors reorganizes as somebody else, right? We all know the trick, you've seen it. Right. But I think that petition, they very easily dismiss as you're a bunch of left-wing tree huggers. I think what could be effective with this county board is, guys, they're gonna be here for 4 years or 40 years. I don't care how much it is, but they're gonna extract your metal, they're gonna take their money, and then they're gonna leave it. And guess who gets to pay the bill to clean it up? It's everybody in this room and everybody in this county. And that's an argument I think they might be receptive to. It's a good argument. Maybe not, but I think that's where I would put my arguments.
So I'm here for a couple of reasons. One is to get people to sign the petition. I also want to thank Bruce, because the Ho-Chunk Nation has already passed a resolution opposing the mine. We're hoping to get another resolution from the Menominee and from the Ojibwe nations up north. But I also really want to make this point, and you've been making it, but it really needs to be made again and again and again. What we need is your ideas, your involvement, and your participation, because they're hearing, right now we've been working with the Environmental Resources Committee for the county. That's the committee that is also the Metallic Mining Committee. And so this is where we have a resolution that we're trying to get before the county board, stating its opposition, again, to take away that social license that Jonathan was just talking about. But your voices, that's a great idea. We've actually talked about that some. What we're trying to do right now with the board, since they've listened to an hour and a half of a real schmooze job by Greenlight Meadows, we're really trying to get them to bring in experts who can take the other side of the issue and make the point that you're making. You know, we don't have the credibility that some of the folks that were involved in the Flambeau mine up north have, that there are people from Greenfire, the retired and disgruntled DNR employees who left during the Walker administration. We need to get a voice, a qualified voice to speak to that board, to give the other side of the issue. You know, they talk to a used car salesman and they have yet to look under the hood. And so, again, if you're concerned about clean water, which this is all about, is clean water. People in Wausau, who live in Wausau, know all about clean water and PFAS and the filtering that needs to be done to make the water safe and drinkable. If you're concerned enough, get involved with, either give Nancy a call, take her number down, give me a call, I'd be happy to give you my card, but get involved with us, get involved with making your voices heard, because we absolutely need as many people as possible in order to overcome the tree hugger effect that you're talking about. And I appreciate your comments.
And I will say, so at the county, excuse me, at the Environmental Resources Committee monthly meeting, there are always, just as a standard practice, time allotted for public input. So please think about that, because again, it is, especially people who can go up there and simply share. I know it's hard, you know, put the passion away, because it is, they need the facts and they need to hear from people that they don't just immediately discount, because that is what happens, sadly.
Just one thing I wanted to add, when you mentioned the conservative part, I participated in the Protect the Willow, which was up in Oneida County. So we were, and what wound up happening is they wanted to have a mine on county property. Okay, so the county board said, we're going to do this. We're sure our citizens are going to be on board with this. Oneida County is a pretty conservative county. Not a lot of blue up in Oneida County. So they said, luckily they put a referendum on the ballot, and they got their heads handed to them. 62% of Oneida County people on a very full election voted no. No thanks, we don't want this type of mining. Okay? So this issue, this water issue, this sulfide mine, dirty water issue, it's not red or blue. It is not red or blue. You just have to get the information out. Most people, regardless of what political party they vote for, understand that they do not want to enrich their water. It played in Oneida County. I mean, we did put an effort in, but the mining company spent money with TV ads and stuff, and yet we won that referendum. And it was not so much, I feel, the work that we did, other than the people up there saying, I think I'll pass. No, we've got enough water problems already, regardless. So that's, I mean, I would not look at it as, oh, wow, we got conservative people. Make them make a decision. Make them tell the people, you know what, we don't care what you think. We're the board. Let them make that. You got to put pressure on these people to make decisions and do what their job is to do, is to represent the people that voted for them, not what they think. That's not the job.
I would think that they would be interested in hearing about potential loss of tourism.
It's not just tourism. I mean, there's farms out there. If you start contaminating water where they're raising cattle or whatever else they're doing out there.
Textiles.
Yeah, I mean, travel to Minnesota and travel to mining country. If you're a mining district, you're a mining district. People are not going by the mine to fish or trout or anything else for that matter. Yes, tourism, like I said, Marathon County with their vast, I mean, I know you guys think, well, we don't have vast resources. Compared to a lot of these small poor counties, this county should not be, I mean, they should be dead set against this. They have plenty going here financially, not to risk their reputation. And like you said, if you want, Superfund site does not do much for your reputation.
When I was gainfully employed, which I'm happy
I can't wait.
For a company that had a plant about 2.5 hours north of here on Highway 13. When they talked about a mine up there, which didn't happen, the one thing the company I worked for was very concerned about was the fact that the mining company was going to supposedly offer jobs starting at almost double what typical wages were paid. So some of the companies actually got involved with this and were in that area and pushed their weight behind county supervisors and other people to, vote against this stuff. That's another avenue. I don't know if you guys should take it, but you definitely should take it because it's hard enough for companies to get people now. And, no matter what people think, some people look at it like, well, even if I understand that it's only going to be 4 years, it's 4 years of this instead of 4 years of that. So, I mean,
Yeah, the video that I'm sorry, for some reason it didn't embed properly. I have the facts behind the video because the video goes into that. What we know historically is that all of these mining towns, their poverty's higher, their income base is lower. I mean, again, this isn't rhetoric. This has been studied over and over and over, and the numbers all point to it being a boondoggle. And that's briefly talked about in the video, but it's incredibly important because this is the situation we are in Marathon. Greenlight can say, look, we're just doing the exploration, the mine that's further down the road. They will say that. This is years away. Once you have kind of popped, and somebody at the Marathon County meeting said it beautifully, and I can't remember the quote, but once you've popped the top on that soda, you can't unpop it. So they may say, look, we're just doing some exploration. This is years away. This is all it's all tentative. It is still all part of the same process that can't be undone. So just that's the thing here is we have to think about this. If we can't, quote unquote, stop a permit for exploration, that's just a small piece of this bigger battle that you're looking at about trying to get a mine opening. So it's important to engage from the start, even if you're not engaging because you think you're going to prevent the exploration. You still have to develop these relationships with the county because they are going to be involved every step along the way.
so during exploration, does the DNR or anybody study how the groundwater is affected? They do their own boring 20, 30 feet down to see what's going on in that, what they've done that's close to where the exploration boring is at.
Not that I know of. I mean, my understanding is they monitor the processes, right? They monitor the processes, but they don't have a counter proposal for you should, do it or this is different. They basically just pass along and approve the processes put forward by the exploration company and then monitor that.
And they not 24/7 monitoring.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying,
Yes.
is any done at all?
I'll get you next. This gentleman had his hand up.
I am Bruce, Oak Truck Drive.
Oh, fantastic. Nice to meet you.
So, yeah, we oppose it. We have that resolution. I sent it around a little bit. Our tribe really opposes it. We're going to start with the other tribes. They're going to, did you start it? We're going to watch this quite carefully. We have representatives in this area. My family lives approximately 6 miles downriver. I grew up there too. I used to go swimming at Oak Clear Hills quite a bit. As many people did back in those days. A lot of families went up there for recreation. question is, so where would they take the product there? Truck it out to,
Oh.
what's the nearest place?
So
Next
we're,
question.
yeah.
The other one is, how long is this trench gonna be?
All I keep hearing is saying 200 and so on the mining or just exploration as far as the sizes. Okay, so on the exploration, the exploration is fairly straightforward, but they do have to make roadways to get into the places for the boring, which is why they typically do it in wintertime. On the other end, I've just heard a generic, well, it's going to be a 250-foot deep hole, but that's what Flambeau is. So it's not a technical response. I think they're just making some assumptions on similarities. The problem is we don't know, right? And even the company, when they were asked that, they just started throwing out, well, this design could work, but we don't know, and that's the problem. What we do know is to do this type of mining, and even if they wanted to do some processing on site, it's exorbitantly expensive to do it without causing the acid mine drainage. So we just don't have the answers other than say, if you hear them saying, hey, they'll say something like, there are ways to do this. Yes, of course, if you have unlimited money, but the normal way is going to be there are going to be impacts, and they have talked about processing it in Marathon, but we don't know. We just don't know. Yes.
So the problem I see is that if they find an ultra-rich vein of gold down there, and they try to get a mining permit, and it gets denied, okay? They still have a claim that they filed on that, that they own the mining rights. And they can come back and come back and come back every 10 years, 20 years into the future. And all they need is one time to get a yes.
Right.
And that's the true problem with this is that the best thing that can happen is that they find very little gold or a very poor sample. Because if they find a rich sample, it may be 50 years, it may be 80 years, maybe 100 years. Eventually, they're going to get a mining permit.
They'll keep trying for sure.
They're going to keep trying and trying, and they get multiple bites at the apple. Yeah. All they have to do is succeed once. Yeah.
And it's funny, so the deposit in question in Marathon County, it's been explored multiple times. I mean, that's, I don't know the right words to put on it, but there is a lot of showmanship involved. There is a lot of, I don't mean scheming in a negative word, but they play out all of these routines trying to put the best face on things. Could be, but sometimes there's stuff there. But my point is, you're exactly right. This is something that happens over and over. So sadly, again, it's not going to be we beat this step and it's done. This is why I'm saying the best thing, in our opinion, at River Alliance that people can do is just get educated. We are opposed to sulfide mining as a general statement, but the best thing, in my opinion, that all of you that are in Marathon County and can engage on this is just get to know the basics on it so that you can share that, because it is, whether it's your board at the county level or a city councilor, those communications are priceless. Those are going to be where the power actually emerges on this issue. And yeah.
And maybe let your legislators know that you really want that First Act back in force in Wisconsin, because that's the best protection against what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right. So the other deposit, the Bend deposit, and here we are in Taylor County. So where they're talking about for the Bend deposit, it's not, good trout streams are over here along 13, but where they're talking about, right about in there. So it's not as directly tied or as close as in Marathon County. But again, talking about in the middle of close to obviously tourism and fishing, et cetera.
It's in the Swanwood National Forest.
Yep, 100%. And
You gotta be careful when you say that, because that's such a massive area. All right, well, it's a little northwest of, what's the town, I'm drawing a blank on, the town that's west of Merrill. Medford. Medford. It's really close to Medford. Yeah. So.
And what makes this, the fact that it's in the Schwamagon, this is the issue. So Forest Service is one of the main players in permitting and processes. And again, as you heard, and I'll get to that here in just a second, federal government is making a big push on mining. And this, again, so it's not that this is going to happen overnight. It has to go through all those steps we've already talked about. But the difference here is this is 100% federally owned land. So it is a very different playing field, if you will, compared to Marathon. And that's why I wanted to share that. Correct. Oh, absolutely.
Mining is allowed in federal forest. For years, it's an ancient law since the development of the country. So there's a withdrawal process. We had a couple senators that would be interested. Minnesota's been withdrawing national forest, attempting to, but that's a process.
It's as long as the mining process, unfortunately.
Right.
They're trying the same thing up in the UP.
Right, and generally the federal process takes longer than the state. I mean, once the feds get involved, but like you said, they're gonna pump up they're putting pressure on them to do it faster. It might not be the case.
Yeah, and so that's the overview on that. And you'll see over on the side it says Inflation Reduction Act. I need to check one. Okay, so I'm going to move forward. So this basic question, does Wisconsin have any mineral deposits, strategic, critical, or rare earth elements? Okay, this is the big rhetoric that you may have been hearing. And I'm curious if any of you who have heard or have been following discussion related to the reef deposit, if you have heard about them saying things like critical minerals or green mining, or we need to do this for EVs. I'm just curious if anybody's kind of heard that rhetoric. Right. So the reason I mention that is this is a big effort by the federal government that is just now ramping up. This is the behind the scenes stuff. And again, I don't want to get too wonky, and I shared this with John digitally and hard copy. But the basic situation is as the renewable energy industry and sustainable energy is becoming more and more needed as climate change, everything that we've known for decades is starting to happen. Point is, a lot of the minerals needed in EVs, solar energy, wind energy, those are critical minerals that are most often obtained outside the United States. The federal government this year alone, so there's 3 significant things I'm going to mention. And again, I know this is all wonky stuff, but I'll share all of this. First of all, there's a thing called the Defense Production Act. It was actually tied to World War II, and it was simply, making sure government can build and do what it needs to do. Well, they actually just, Trump used it related to COVID. Biden just reenacted or put back into effect the Defense Production Act, specifically tied to EV batteries. Okay, that's the point here. They are trying at the federal level to figure out how can we expand our EV industry, how can we expand renewable energy if we, the United States, can't get these minerals, what's going to happen? So what they're doing, they're looking at federal actions that can help long-term build this market, right? Well, the Inflation Reduction Act, which I mentioned earlier, and you all, some of you mentioned you're familiar with, what they're trying to do is shift all of the minerals needed for, I'm just going to say EVs, because that's definitely been a big discussion about nickel, for example. What they're trying to do is find pathways to encourage mining domestically in the United States, specifically related to critical minerals. For that to happen, that would also involve, to a large degree, working on rebuilding the permitting process, et cetera. All this is tied together. You can go to the newspaper and read about it. So they have been, Manchin has worked a deal to work on the permitting on the side to make it easier while the Inflation Reduction Act is promoting domestic mining. The Defense Production Act is also approving and promoting the need to do that domestically. So these are why we're mentioning these is, again, there is a potential, if this continues to grow as an idea, that the United States needs to be the producer of these minerals. There very well could be a large concerted effort in the United States to grow and expand mining. So we need to be aware that this isn't, again, this isn't the mining companies, this isn't industry insiders, this is the President of the United States, this is our Congress taking steps to kind of set the stage for trying to get at these minerals domestically. So I'm not giving you any specifics other than to say the actions have happened this year, so we know what to be looking for. That's why I wanted to bring this up, because why does this, and I'll get you in just a second, Kirk, why does this matter for us here in Marathon County? The presentation that Greenlight Metals delivered to the Marathon County Board repeatedly, and Eric, you can correct me if I'm wrong, repeatedly talked about green mining, talked about critical minerals. That is not what Marathon Reef Deposit about. It is a gold mine, plain and simple. They have stated it in their studies. They've stated in their reports, Greenlight Metals. It is a gold mine. But you're going to see this rhetoric. We're doing this for the safety of America. We're doing this to protect our nation. Those things that they're talking about are, you know, nickel and all of the others. And again, it's on the document that I've shared. That is not what mining in Wisconsin is right now. The only or most likely deposits, Bend and Reef, are both gold mines. Okay, they're massive sulfide gold mines. That is what they're targeting, and I just want to share that because this is critical. Because you can go back over the last 3 months and look at the stories, and you'll see a lot of really great, you know, rah, pro-America, all of this. That's what we're trying to do right now, is just lay the facts out about what this is and what this is not. And I'm sorry it took so long.
What is it? Lithium, cobalt, nickel, and what else?
There's a, yeah, it's on the list, I can't remember, but you,
I mean, the top five are what you just said, though. I mean, it goes deeper if you want, but you get farther down with it. The only thing that we might have is copper, and it's much farther down the line. Nickel is not prevalent in much of Wisconsin other than close to Minnesota.
That's what I was gonna say. What I've read is all the mining that's been done in the state throughout all the years, copper is about the only thing that they found.
yeah, the nickel, to just one example of what you're saying. So, because again, this is what you'll hear. We know that there's some zinc. We know that there's some nickel. Those are both used critical minerals used in renewable energy. The problem is they're not in enough quantity to justify mining them. This is the thing. They'll allude to it, and people will say, oh yeah, I heard there's nickel, and so this is how these rumor mills start, right? But financially, they do not have any deposits identified at this point in Wisconsin that would actually fall under the critical mineral and the Defense Production Act. Okay, but you're going to hear them talking about it. It's very, and I hate to say this, because again, I'm just trying to present the facts, but we saw it at the county meeting. They made multiple references to things that just aren't going to happen even if this mine gets opened up. And it is not going to be a critical minerals mine that's going to save the United States. It is about profit. And again, I won't read it. This is just what you were asking about, though. The critical minerals list is up there, the rare earth minerals discussion. But what I wanted to focus on is this last piece, this green mining. And I don't know if any of you have heard that term, green mining, but it's becoming a new buzzword, especially it's been in Minnesota related to Talon for a while now. They're using the same, we've saw it in the presentation. Green mining does not mean mining that's safe and it's good for the environment. Green mining means there are certain minerals needed for the green industry. Okay, so when you hear that term, we're going to do some green mining. That does not mean that the mining is going to be safer and cleaner. It means they're targeting things that go into the green industry. And nickel is a big one that you've heard about with Talon, for example. But it's critical to know that, because a lot of what happens with the rhetoric and the talking points is people hear it and it sounds good, and their brain wants to go one way with it and define it. The truth of the matter is that there is still no safe way to mine any of this that we have identified. So when you hear that term green mining, all you need to know is it has nothing to do with whether that mining is good or safe or anything like that. It just simply means they're going after targets that they know they need in the renewable energy industry. All right. It did it again. There we go. So two things. I already shared. The reason I'm sharing Nancy again so prominently is, again, she already has signs and buttons ready to go. She took this issue up very early. She's been working with the county a lot, and most importantly, she's willing to take calls. That's the important thing here. So if you're interested in this at the very local level, she's in Marathon County on the ground. She would love to hear from you guys because, again, this is just one step in a many-year-long process. So, and then above that, so this is, if you go to our website, so River Alliance's website is actually wisconsinrivers.org. The two mining pages I would ask you to go look at are on there, specifically, again, the video, and you can sign up for mining updates. Our mining update is irregular. It only goes out when there are updates to be shared. But I don't know, Eric, is it worth subscribing to?
I subscribe to it.
All right. But yeah, so that's the formal overview, but I'd love to answer any questions or dialogue or whatever, and want to obviously thank all of you for letting me be here. Rib Mountain.
I just texted her a while ago. She said she used to live in Rochester.
Johnson, thank
Yes.
you.
Oh, thank you.
Very much.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. And I guess that's all for tonight. This is an experiment on places. Oh, yes, golly, gotta make sure.
I'll leave.
Did everybody get a ticket tonight for the possibility of drawing? Huh? Okay. All right. Here we go.
Oh,
You get to be.
I got one in my pocket, so I gotta.
Take them in.
All
You got a
right.
number.
Are you ready? Everybody got their tickets. 161196.
Well, it's Eric's? Okay, so what do you think, Eric? Well, he's not here, he can't win. All right, I'll draw again.
Oh, draw again? All right.
Oh, you did?
Oh.
We'll do one more. This is a rigged setup, by the way, folks.
Okay. 161193.
Right here.
Ah.
Hey! Rich get richer. Thanks, everybody, for coming here tonight. This is an experiment. This is the first time we've done this thing. So if you have comments, please get in touch with me as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I was long-winded. This is a tough topic.
I was a retired preacher, you know. You get a lot of
Call me whatever, because I know I barely scratched the surface. Thank you, guys.
Well, some people still owe for stuff, I know. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, John.
Contact information, hopefully.
I sure do. Yeah. I was so excited when I heard from John. I was like, Kirk already got me on the hook, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, anyway, got something going or whatever, just let me know. I'll try to make it.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted. It's gonna be a long one, but they are really hitting hard on exploration. So I'll probably call you because I want to. Nancy's out of town when she gets back.
I texted her and I said I want to sign and she said, well, she's gone. I'm gonna be gone till the 22nd anyway.
We'll make sure, but I'll be in touch because we will have these. Everybody informed. Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Good job.
Like I said, the big thing is a lot of people get the emotions of this. They don't relevant scientific information. They talk to people.
The elected officials, they really don't care too much about as much as they do hotlines.
Only care about the passion that these 30 people want to shout out. Otherwise, they don't care.
But then you hit, that's the central problem we have, especially in the county. We need, obviously, it's good to have something to allow people, but you gotta have that full spectrum. You gotta have conservatives.
Right, you do, yeah, and I think I'll really bother you about people. I'm very much.
John, I watched some of these online.